The first thing I remember was the bitter taste of cheap tequila and the sting of regret crawling across my tongue like a curse. The second was his laugh, low, reckless, and far too addictive for someone I wasn't supposed to remember. Morning sunlight cracked through my blinds in New York, stabbing me right in the eye, and there he was again standing in my kitchen, barefoot, shirtless, humming like he belonged. As if last night hadn't been a mistake, as if he hadn't just been some stranger in a bar who caught me at my lowest. I blinked hard, my skull pounding. "You can't keep doing this," I muttered, pulling the blanket tighter around my waist like it could shield me from the audacity of him. "Doing what?" he asked, without turning, his voice easy, dripping with that Midwestern drawl that didn't belong in my cold, East Coast apartment. He flipped a pancake like he owned my stove. "Making you breakfast? You're welcome, by the way." I should have thrown him out. I should have told him what he was, that he was nothing but a distraction, a mistake born out of desperation and loneliness. But instead, my throat closed, and my chest tightened with something I didn't want to name. Because the truth was, he made my place feel less empty. And that was dangerous. His name was Aaron. At least, that's what he told me between shots and bad karaoke 2 weeks ago. That night was supposed to be just that one night. One blurry, reckless mistake after a long string of heartbreaks I didn't want to talk about. But somehow, he never left. He wasn't supposed to. I never gave him a key, yet every morning he was there. Cooking, humming, flashing that lazy smile that made my insides twist. And me? I hated how much I didn't hate it. "Why me?" I asked him once, leaning against the counter as he brewed coffee like it was his sacred ritual. There are easier guys out there. Guys who don't come with warning signs stamped across their forehead. Aaron looked at me then, really looked. His eyes were this strange shade of hazel, like sunlight caught in a bottle of whiskey. "Because you looked like you needed saving," he said simply. "And because no one ever sticks around for me either." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "I don't need saving." But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. New York had never been kind to me. The city chewed up men like men who were too soft to play tough, too scarred to play happy. I had built walls so high, even I forgot what was behind them. Aaron, though, he was different. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't flinch when I pushed, when I snapped, when I tried to bury myself in silence. He just stayed. And that terrified me more than loneliness ever had. One night, rain hammered against the windows, and I found myself blurting out truths I hadn't said out loud in years. About my father, who never looked me in the eye after I came out. About the boyfriend who left me in the middle of winter with nothing but a note on the counter. About the ache in my chest that never went away. Aaron listened, really listened. No pity, no judgment. Just this steady presence, like he was anchoring me without even trying. When I finally broke down, trembling and raw, he reached across the couch, wiped a tear off my cheek with the back of his thumb, and whispered, "You don't have to carry it all alone, you know?" Something inside me cracked that night, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel so unbearably alone. But love, if that's even what this was never easy for me. I was too afraid to reach for it, too afraid to lose it. So, the next morning I told him to leave. I told him it had gone too far, that I couldn't have him here anymore. His face fell, but he nodded. No fight, no angry words, just quiet acceptance. And that hurt worse than anything. 3 days passed. 3 long, suffocating days where the kitchen was silent, where the bed was too cold, where the sound of his humming haunted every corner of my apartment. By the 4th morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I found myself back at the same bar where it had all started, gripping a glass I didn't need, searching for a face I thought I had already lost. And there he was, sitting at the counter, head bent, tapping his fingers against the wood in a rhythm I knew by heart now. He looked up, and when his eyes met mine, something inside me broke open. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted, voice cracking, loud enough for him to hear over the music. "But I don't want you to stop showing up in my kitchen." Aaron smiled then, soft, relieved, like he had been waiting for me to figure it out all along. "Good," he said, standing, walking straight toward me. Because I was never planning on stopping. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about tequila or loneliness anymore. This was about finding someone who saw meth wreck, the scars, the sharp edges, and still chose to stay. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to let him. That was only the beginning. What came next was messier, harder, more beautiful than I ever expected. But I can tell you this mush kept making pancakes. I kept pretending not to like them, and somewhere in between, we both learned what it meant to build a home in someone else. And for the first time in forever, I stopped being afraid of mornings. Aaron wasn't just a warm smile and pancakes. He was stubborn, messy, and had a way of peeling back the layers I spent years building. And that scared me more than anything. The first time we fought, it wasn't even about anything serious. He had left his boots by the door again, mud trailing across the floor like breadcrumbs. I snapped. "You can't just leave your shit everywhere," I said, slamming the door harder than necessary. Aaron looked up from the couch, brows arched. "It's mud, not blood. Relax. Relax," I scoffed. "This isn't your place. You don't live here." His jaw tightened, that easygoing smile finally slipping. "Could have fooled me. I've been waking up here more than my own apartment." And just like that, the air cracked between us. I hated how right he was. I hated how his presence had already stitched itself into my daily life. His coffee mug by the sink, his humming in the shower, his laugh echoing down the hall. "You don't get it?" I muttered, sinking onto the chair, burying my face in my hands. "This, whatever this is, it won't last. Nothing ever does." For a long moment, silence. Then I felt his hand, warm and steady, on my knee. "Then let's not think about forever," he said softly. "Let's just think about right now." But I wasn't built for right now. I was built for catastrophes. One evening, he brought over a box. I watched, suspicious, as he set it down on the kitchen table like it was some kind of peace offering. "What's that?" I asked. He grinned, pulling out records, old Polaroids, little trinkets. "Pieces of me. Thought you should know what you're signing up for." I stared at him, baffled. "You're insane." "Probably," he shrugged, holding up a worn photograph of him and a dog. "This is Max. He's back home with my mom in Indiana. He hates strangers, but you'd probably win him over." Something in my chest twisted. He was building a bridge, brick by brick, while I was still trying to burn mine down. The truth came spilling one night when the whiskey loosened his tongue. "I didn't just move here for fun," Aaron admitted, his voice low, almost guilty. "I ran. From my dad. From a life that was choking me." He told me about a father who called him a disgrace, about a town that whispered behind closed doors, about nights spent in a truck with no gas, staring at the stars and wondering if it was even worth it. "I swore I'd never let anyone make me feel small again," he said, gripping the glass so tightly I thought it might break. "And then I met you. And suddenly, small didn't feel so bad if it was next to you." My throat closed. What do you even say to that? So I kissed him, hard, desperate, like I could swallow the pain out of him, even as my own threatened to spill. But love doesn't erase scars. It just makes you more aware of them. We started orbiting each other in ways that hurt as much as they healed. When Aaron laughed too loud at dinner with my friends, I flinched, worried about judgmental stares. When I pulled away in public, he looked at me with quiet disappointment I pretended not to notice. "Why are you so ashamed?" he asked one night, after I brushed his hand away on a crowded street. "I'm not ashamed," I snapped too quickly. "Then what are you?" His voice cracked, raw. I didn't answer, because the truth was worse. I wasn't ashamed of him. I was ashamed of myself. The breaking point came on a Thursday. Funny how ordinary days can split your life in two. I had a late meeting. I came home tired, ready to collapse, only to find Aaron waiting at the table with candles lit and takeout spread out like some makeshift feast. "What's this?" I asked, already defensive. "Dinner," he said simply, standing. "Celebration. You got that promotion, right?" I froze. I hadn't told him. Not because I didn't want to, but because part of me still didn't believe I deserved to celebrate. "How did you?" I heard you on the phone yesterday, he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. I thought, I don't know, maybe you'd want someone to be proud of you. The words landed like a punch. I should have felt gratitude. Instead, I felt cornered. I didn't ask for this, I snapped. I don't need you throwing me a pity party. Aaron blinked, hurt flashing in his eyes. It's not pity, it's love. And that word made my chest tighten with panic. Don't say that, I whispered, shaking my head. Why not? It's true. Because it won't last, I shouted before I could stop myself. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. Aaron stepped back, his jaw tight. Then maybe you don't deserve it. And for the first time, he left. 3 days. No humming, no pancakes, no warmth spilling into my mornings. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes you realize how much noise love actually brings into your life. I tried to tell myself it was better this way. Cleaner. Safer. But every time I walked into the kitchen, my chest ached like someone had carved it out. By the 5th day, I caved. I found myself outside his crappy apartment on the Lower East Side, rain soaking through my jacket. My hand shook as I knocked. He opened the door, eyes tired, hair messy, wearing a shirt that wasn't mine this time. What are you doing here? He asked, voice flat. I don't know, I admitted, rain dripping into my eyes. I can't stop thinking about you. About the way you make coffee, the way my throat closed. I'm scared, Aaron. I've been scared my whole damn life. But losing you scares me more. His expression softened, just barely. You don't get to run hot and cold forever, he whispered. I know. My voice cracked. But I'm here now. If you'll let me be. For a long moment he said nothing. Then finally he stepped aside. Come in, he said quietly. And maybe that was the first step toward learning how to stay. That night, curled up on his old couch, surrounded by the smell of him, the sound of the rain, I realized something. Love wasn't about perfect mornings or easy nights. It was about fighting through the mess, the fear, the scars. It was about choosing each other, even when everything in you screamed to run. And for the first time, I thought maybe, just maybe, I was brave enough to choose him. I thought going back to Aaron's apartment that night would fix everything. Like once I said the right words, once I finally admitted I was scared of losing him, the rest would fall into place. But love doesn't work like that. Love isn't a magic spell. It's a slow, messy war you fight every single day. And I was still learning how to stop fighting against him instead of with him. Weeks passed. We tried. God, we tried. I'd wake up to his arm draped heavy across my chest. And for a second I'd believe it was forever. Then the sun rose, and the old voices crept back, me father's silence, my ex's cruel goodbye, the gnawing belief that nothing good ever stays. Sometimes Aaron caught me staring at him, like I was memorizing him before he disappeared. What? He'd ask, smiling. Nothing, I'd lie. But inside, I was bracing for impact. Came one Friday night. We were invited to a friend's part-of-me world colliding with his. I almost said no, but Aaron insisted. Come on, it'll be fun, he said, tugging at my sleeve like a kid begging for candy. Fun, right? That word never sat right in my mouth. At the party, everything was too loud, music pounding, laughter spilling, conversations blending into static. Aaron thrived in it. He lit up the room, telling stories, laughing, pulling me closer like he wanted the whole world to know I was his. And me? I froze. Every time someone's eyes lingered too long, every time I caught a whisper or a smirk, my chest clenched. The city had taught me people never really change. They still look, still judge, still sharpen their knives with gossip. At some point, one of my colleagues, a guy named Matthew, cornered me. So that's your friend? He said. The word dipped in something sour. I felt Aaron's hand brush mine just then, gentle, grounding. But panic won. Pulled away. He's just someone I know, I muttered. The second the words left my mouth, I wanted to claw them back. But it was too late. Aaron didn't say anything until we got back to my place. The silence was worse than shouting. Finally, he turned, eyes dark, jaw tight. Just someone you know? I swallowed hard. Aaron, I know. Don't. He laughed bitterly, running a hand through his hair. You don't get to pull me into your world, sleep in my arms every night, and then shrink me down to a stranger when people are watching. I was scared. I admitted, my voice breaking. I didn't want to what? To be judged? To be seen with me? His voice cracked, hurt spilling out of him. God, do you have any idea what that feels like? To give someone everything and still not be enough for them to claim. My chest ached. You are enough. Then why don't you act like it? The silence after that was unbearable. He grabbed his jacket, his keys. I moved to stop him, but his glare froze me in place. Figure your shit out, he said, voice low, final. Because I can't keep bleeding for someone who won't even say my name out loud. And then he was gone. This time it wasn't 3 days. It was weeks. Weeks of quiet mornings, of empty beds, of staring at my phone like I could will his name to appear. But it didn't. I threw myself into work, into distractions, into anything that wasn't the gaping wound of him not being there. But it all came back: the smell of coffee, the sound of his laugh, the way his presence filled every crack in me I didn't know was leaking. And I hated myself for letting him go. One night, drunk and desperate, I showed up outside his apartment again. But when the door opened, it wasn't Aaron. It was a guy. Tall, blonde, leaning against the frame like he belonged. You must be the ex, he said, smirking. The word hit me like a punch. Aaron appeared behind him, eyes widening. Wait, it's not. But I was already backing away, heart pounding, shame clawing at my throat. Forget it, I muttered, turning before I shattered in front of him. The city felt crueler without him. The streets colder, the nights longer. One afternoon, Matthew, the same colleague from the party, stopped me in the hall at work. Rough week? He asked casually, like he hadn't been part of the trigger. I snapped. Mind your damn business. But inside, I knew it wasn't him I was angry at. It was me. Always me. The truth came out days later. Aaron showed up at my door, face flushed from the cold, eyes tired. That guy you saw, he said before I could even speak. He's just a friend, a couch crasher. Nothing more. I stared, trying to process, my chest aching with the weight of everything unsaid. Why are you telling me this? I asked finally. Because you looked at me like I was already gone, he whispered. And maybe I am, but I didn't want you thinking I replaced you that easily. Because I didn't. The words cut deep. I wanted to reach for him, to beg him to stay, to promise I'd do better. But fear still sat heavy on my tongue. So all I managed was, I'm sorry. He nodded once, eyes glassy. Me too. And then, for the second time, he walked away. This time it felt final. And maybe it had to be. Maybe some people are just a lesson, not a forever. But God, it hurt. It hurt like hell. Still, even in the wreckage, something shifted in me. I started to see how much I'd been running, not just from Aaron, but from myself. From the boy who never got love from his father. From the man who convinced himself heartbreak was inevitable. Aaron was right. I had to figure my shit out. And maybe, for once, that meant not hiding. So I did something terrifying. I showed up at my parents' house in upstate New York. A place I hadn't been in years. My father's disapproval still echoed in the walls. My mother's silence still stung like fresh cuts. The reunion was awkward. Stiff. My father barely looked at me. But I said the words anyway. I'm gay, I told him again, this time without apology. And I'm done pretending otherwise to make you comfortable. He didn't respond. He just stared, cold and silent. And for the first time, I realized it didn't matter. His acceptance, his love, his approval. What mattered was mine. When I left that house, I felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but freer than I had in years. And I knew then, if I wanted Aaron back, I couldn't beg. I couldn't just apologize. I had to prove it. I had to show him I wasn't ashamed. Not of him. Not of us. The real fight for love hadn't even started yet. New York in winter has a way of making you feel like you're the only one alive, even when the sidewalks are crowded. The wind slices, the gray sky presses down, and every shadow feels sharper. That's where I was, walking home one night, when I realized I didn't want to be alone anymore. Not in the cold. Not in life. I wanted Aaron. And this time I was done hiding it. The next morning I started where he always began. The kitchen. I dug out flour, eggs, milk-messy attempts at pancakes that looked nothing like his. Smoke curled from the pan. Batter dripped on the counter. But I didn't stop. I needed him to know I could try. That I could meet him halfway. So I called him. For the first time in weeks, I dialed his number instead of staring at it. It rang. Once. Twice. He answered, cautious. "Hello. It's me," I said, my voice trembling. I tried making pancakes. They're awful. You should probably come over and fix them." Silence. Then the smallest laugh. "God, I'd missed that sound." "I don't know if I should," he said slowly. "Last time I came over, I left broken." "I know," I whispered. "And I can't promise I won't screw up again. But I swear I'll never make you feel invisible again. Not in my kitchen, not in public, not anywhere. If you'll give me one more chance, I'll fight for this. For us." Another pause. My chest ached in the quiet. Then, "Give me 10 minutes. He showed up still wearing the same old leather jacket, hair damp from the snow. He smelled like the city and like home all at once. His eyes swept over the disaster on the counter, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled at me. "These look like weapons, not pancakes." "I told you," I said, shrugging, though my hands shook. "I'm better at destroying things than building them. But I'm trying to change that." Aaron stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat of him, close enough that the silence between us turned soft instead of sharp. "I don't need you to be perfect," he said quietly. "I just need you to stay. I will," I promised, my throat thick. "No more running. No more shame. I want everyone to know you're mine." His eyes softened, the last of the walls between us finally cracking. "Then prove it." I did. The next weekend, I invited him to a work dinner. The same people who saw me flinch, who saw me pull away. Only this time I didn't let go. I held his hand under the table, then over it. When Matthew raised his brows in that same smug way, I didn't shrink. I leaned in, pressed a kiss to Aaron's temple, and smiled. "Yeah," I said steady. "This is Aaron. My boyfriend." The word tasted like freedom. Aaron's fingers squeezed mine so tightly it almost hurt. But it was the best kind of pain. Of course, it wasn't all smooth after that. We still fought about dishes, about my late nights, about his socks on the floor. But the fights no longer ended with slammed doors or silent weeks. They ended with late-night apologies, tangled limbs in bed, whispered promises of, "We'll do better tomorrow." Because love wasn't about never breaking. It was about choosing to mend over and over again. Spring came, and with it, small rituals that became ours. Sunday mornings at the flea market. Tuesday nights with takeout on the couch. Friday karaoke, where Aaron sang off-key just to make me laugh. And every morning, without fail, I'd find him in my kitchen humming, flipping pancakes, acting like he owned the place. The difference now was I wanted him to. One morning, months later, I caught him staring at me while the coffee brewed. "What?" I asked, grinning. "Nothing," he said, though his smile was soft. "Just, you look different, happier." I leaned across the counter, kissed him slow. "That's because I am." He smirked. "Guess it's the pancakes." I laughed. "It's you, idiot. The thing is, I used to think love was a storm-loud, destructive, fleeting, something that wrecked you and then left. But Aaron taught me love could also be a kitchen at sunrise, a burnt pancake, a laugh that filled the silence, could be staying even when leaving felt easier. And maybe that was what I'd been searching for all along. So yeah, it started with tequila and a night I thought I'd regret. It started with me pushing and him staying, with walls and with scars. But it ended here, with a boy who kept showing up in my kitchen every morning like he owned the place. And with me finally realizing always had. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, Please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.